It's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. It's Life in the Movies podcast, back in the traditional format. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. Well, Jacob and I have both seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and well, we're just going to gush about that for a while. And we'll be talking about Iron Fist Season 1, Episode 5. But first, I have to introduce my co-host, Jacob Martin. Jacob, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It's great to be back in the YouTube space once again. I took a week off last week because of stuff that was going on in the church space, was a really good, encouraging event. But it's good to be back to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I watched this past weekend. And spoiler alert, I absolutely loved every minute of it.
Well, we'll get to that in the main event. But first and foremost, I know you took a week off, but how's life been for you?
Life has been pretty good. I've just taken everything one day at a time. I've just been so blessed this past week with great encouraging lessons and diving deeper into the Bible. It's just been a very encouraging week. There's been a lot of developing ends in life that's been very encouraging. It's all been very good. Ryan, how has your life been? I know that you've been rewatching a lot of the old Disney movies I've seen.
Yeah, well, outside of my channel, I'm a part of a trivia league called Multiplex, and one of the, I guess it's in the same league, but it's a league called the Fandom League, and it's basically a separate league where it focuses primarily on separate series and subgenres, and one of those genres is Disney animation. And my knowledge of the Disney canon is good, but it could be better. So I'm just been brushing up on the classics, and it has been quite interesting to say the least. But involved in the league, you got Disney Animation, you got Pixar, you got DreamWorks, but you also have a subsection called Law and Order, which is all the Lethal Weapon movies, all of the Die Hard movies, things like that. You have American Spies, which is Jack Ryan, all the Jack Ryan movies, all the Bourne movies, things like that. James Bond, that's fairly straightforward. You got sci-fi icons, which is RoboCop, Alien, and Predator. You got Star Trek. You got horror icons, which is Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. It's a fun league, but you really have to know the granular details about these movies. And if I have any hope of being any good in this league, and as of this recording, I am 1-1, so I've won one and I've lost one. But if I have to be any good in this league, I gotta know all the little kernels and all the little details. So I'm just doing a lot of rewatching. It's been fun though. I have not seen some of these movies in a good long time, but rewatching Fantasia for the first time in a long time, I was really just blown away by how much I did enjoy that movie. It's weird. You could never pass a movie like Fantasia off nowadays, but it's such a product of its time. But that's kind of what I like about it. But I guess it's a good way to parlay into what we've been watching lately. But before I go into it, which has been a lot, I'll pass it off to you, Jacob. So, what have you been watching lately?
Aside from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I've been making my way through the Mission Impossible movies. I think the last time I talked about the third one, I did rewatch Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and I'll eventually dive more into my thoughts on that on my next What I Watched live stream, which will be this weekend. I'll say now, it's an amazing film. One of my absolute favorites in the Mission Impossible franchise. It's like neck and neck for me between that and Fallout as my favorite. Has some amazing action in it, especially the Dubai sequence with Tom Cruise running up and down the world's tallest building is absolutely incredible. There's some pretty good high stakes in that movie too. The villain is a little bit one note. That's not my only real issue with the movie. But aside from that, fantastic Mission Impossible film and one of my personal favorites in the franchise.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I'm going to be a part of that video. So that's going to be so much fun. Yeah, Ghost Protocol is my favorite Mission Impossible movie. If your favorite is Rogue Nation or Fallout, God bless you. I absolutely see where you're coming from, and I agree. However, Ghost Protocol for me it just starts and doesn't stop. It's the most back against the wall that this series will probably ever get. I mean, Dead Reckoning is proving to be like we are in the end game now, just from what the trailer looks like. It looks fantastic, by the way. But Ghost Protocol, all their technology breaks. Like the self destruct sequence doesn't go off, so Tom Cruise has to go and for it to self destruct. The mask machine just completely sputters, and they have to go into a meeting with the henchman with no knowledge that the henchman knows who they are or what they do. It's literally Schrodinger's hostage meeting, for lack of a better word. It's so gripping and it's so well done. Brad Bird just came in, dropped a banger in the Mission Impossible series, and he left. I low key would love to see him come back to this, but I mean, Christopher McQuarrie's doing an excellent job, so I can't really argue with the results.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of that. It's another fantastic movie. And another movie that I rewatched, actually plugging in an upcoming series on your channel, Ryan. I did rewatch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I'll be filming the video this week and sending it your way real soon for the collab. Uh, I love The Last Crusade. It's one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies. Again, it's neck and neck on what my favorite Indiana Jones movie is. Raiders, I think, has the edge because there's so many iconic action set pieces in the movie. That's the film that introduced Indiana Jones, started the franchise, and it's one of the quintessential action adventure films. But Last Crusade, I argue, has more heart to it. You have a really touching father son story. You got James Bond himself, Sean Connery, who absolutely steals the show as Henry Jones Sr., Indy's dad, can go toe to toe with Harrison Ford and be just as awesome. There's a really good father son story where they were estranged for many years because the dad was too obsessed with his own work. But then they go on this adventure and they restore the bond. The quest with the Holy Grail I thought was very fascinating. So many good action set pieces in there, directed masterfully by Steven Spielberg. Of course, the John Williams score is epic. And you got a really cool prologue with River Phoenix, Indiana Jones, which is a fantastic way to kickstart the movie. So I love a lot of aspects in Last Crusade, and it could have been the good franchise wrapper with the way it ended, but we got two more afterwards, for
Well,
better or worse.
the jury is still out on Dial of Destiny, but Last Crusade is my personal favorite Indiana Jones movie. Raiders is, I call, a near perfect action movie, but like you said, the heart is firmly in the camp of Last Crusade. And really, I present two cases as to why, or two separate arguments as to why this is the best Indiana Jones movie. Number one, the tank scene. You all know the one I'm talking about, where Indy is just he gets the crap beaten out of him by the Nazi Dietrich, and then he fights from underneath and gets back, only for the tank to go over the cliff, and he survives. It's such a great sequence. And then earlier in the movie, you get to the blimp scene where Henry Jones Sr. and Henry Jones Jr. chatted up. And it's just a great little moment where Henry Sr. is like, "Did I ever tell you to eat up, wash your ears, do your homework? No, I taught you shelf reliance." And then Indy Jr. or Henry Jr., excuse me, is like, "What you taught me is that old relics from the 12th century were more important. And I learned it so well, we haven't had an actual conversation in 20 years." It's such a great scene because it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's like, this is dramatic now. It feels like it's between two people who love each other, but just are estranged for one reason or another. The dad closed himself off emotionally, and the son had to basically learn how to survive on his own. So it's it's just beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in the movie, and even the when they do finally patch things up at the end, when Indy was about to suffer the same fate as the Elsa character, where he's trying to grab the Grail, even if it means the end of his life, and then his dad finally calls him Indiana instead of Junior. It goes Indiana, Indiana, let it go. That is such a beautiful payoff to their relationship. That really shows, okay, they're back to loving each other again fully.
Yeah, that whole sequence where Indy has to go through the three levels, the breath of God, the path of God, and the word of God is just so tense, but it's done so well. Just with Henry Sr., because he's shot, he has to stay behind. He basically leading him through it is like, remember in the Latin alphabet, Jova begins with an I, and Indy steps through the big J and J, and then he falls through the floor. And I've seen this movie 100 times, still gets me every time. And then Indy pops himself up and he's like, idiot. Jova begins with an I. And he's like, IHEOV and A. And he walks through it just fine. And then did the whole the penitent man will pass, the penitent man is humble, kneels before God, and the big saw blades, and then the leap of faith where he goes like this, he takes the big step. We might as well just make a big episode celebrating Last Crusade because we could talk about this movie for hours.
Oh, I definitely could. It's an amazing film. It was, I think, as a kid, it was always between that and Raiders is my favorite Indiana Jones film. I could never decide which one it was, but part of the reason why I love Last Crusade so much, and I can see it being a lot of people's favorite, including yours, Sean Connery, man. Sean Connery made the movie the way it is. He was incredible in it.
Oh, he absolutely is. It's some of his finest work, in my opinion. But
I would argue it's his best performance. And as much as I love James Bond and even The Untouchables, which he won an Oscar for, to me, I always associate Sean Connery with Henry Jones Sr.
that's a heavy claim right there. That's a heavy claim, but I can tell you're sticking by it.
Yeah.
But what else you got?
I think that's about it. I do plan on rewatching Wallace and Gromit this week because we'll be covering that for discussing DreamWorks. Cheap plug in on my channel. We're doing discussing DreamWorks this Thursday at 8 p.m. I'd like to say Eastern time, where we'll be, or
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Sorry, 9 p.m. Eastern time, where we'll be doing our discussion on Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were Rabbit. So be on the lookout for that. I really love the film. I know Ryan, you're a big fan of the film too. It's going to be a really awesome discussion there.
Massive, massive, massive Aardman guy. But yeah, that's a good thing to I almost forgot it in the house cleaning. Thank you, Jacob. Yes, I will be on Jacob's channel this coming Thursday, the 15th. So tomorrow, as this video drops, to talk about Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm a big Aardman mark, so stop on by to hear me gush for a little while. But
All right. So what have you been watching this week?
so like you were talking about earlier, I have been kind of brushing up on my Disney canon. Rewatched Snow White, watched for the first time in a very long time Pinocchio, watched for the first time in a very long time Fantasia and Dumbo, and watched for the first time ever Saludos Amigos. Snow White is a classic. There's no getting around that. So is Pinocchio. That movie is dark. Like that movie is messed up in the head. But what works about the movie is that it's not done from a place of being cold of heart. It's done to teach a lesson. And we learn these lessons through Pinocchio. If he wants to be a real boy, then he has to go through these things. It's just, it's screwed up at times, but it's done with a purpose. I guess that's my point. Fantasia, like I said, couldn't get away with it today. It's these long animated shorts set to classical music. No one would get behind that. It bombed even back then, mostly because of World War II, but it bombed even back then. But I think the movie is beautiful. I think my favorite sequences are Sorcerer's Apprentice and The Night on Bald Mountain, followed by the Ave Maria. I know that's the most basic take around Fantasia. I like the two most famous ones, but they're so gorgeous for different reasons. Sorcerer's Apprentice is just a great montage of Mickey just starting out and then just getting completely over his head, and then the wizard just being like out. It's like it's just such a great little sequence. And then Night on Bald Mountain, whoever designed the demon on Bald Mountain must have been having a bad day because he is terrifying. He's got these big arms and the horns and just like rah! It's just oh my god, it's just terrifying. I can't imagine what it must have been like in 1940 to have just seen that on screen for the first time. It would have been just crazy. And then followed up by just the beauty that was the Ave Maria. It's just fantastic. Then there's Dumbo and oh, I also forgot Bambi. I forgot to include Bambi in there. I watched that. But Dumbo I thought was a bit odd. Like I didn't like the elephants in that where they basically shun Dumbo for having big ears. I'm like, y'all got big ears. Like, what are you talking about? But I feel like it was done with a purpose, but I just was not too keen on it. And then the crows have aged like milk, but that has been discussed quite a bit, and I will not discuss it here. Bambi was another one. Again, I like the animation more than I like the story. I think it's a good story, but the animation is just more beautiful than that, in my humble opinion. And then Saludos Amigos, definitely a product of the times. It felt more like a travelogue of let's show you South America than anything else. And because we have the internet, it's made movies like this kind of obsolete. And I'm not trying to dig on the movie. I think the movie does look good. It's got good animation, but it feels very much like a relic of a time that was long ago. Good movie though, but just I'm entering a weird one where it's like Saludos Amigos and then Make Mine Music and then Fun and Fancy Free and then the next one I want to say is Cinderella. So it's like these.
Yeah, there's six movies in that era because after Saludos Amigos, they did the Three Caballeros,
Oh yeah,
which
I
is kind
forgot
of a
about that one.
companion to Saludos Amigos. And then they did Make Mine Music, which strangely is still not on Disney Plus. I never understood why it's not on Disney Plus. That
Wait,
one's a
it's
hard
not?
one to find. Yeah, they never put that one on Disney Plus for some reason.
Hang on, I'm looking because I could have sworn I thought I saw it the other day, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong. Make mine. No, it's not on there.
yeah, they never put that one on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus has been around since what 2019.
Yeah, December 2019 with the release of The Mandalorian, but
I
yeah,
was
that's a bit
it's
odd.
weird that they never did that, but it's a bizarre, inconsistent package of film. Some shorts are better than others, but it's still worth watching for completionist sake if you can find it. And then there's also Fun and Fancy Free, Melly Time, and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And then you got Cinderella.
It's a weird time that Disney was in during there. Is like World War II, they were just like, we're just gonna make shorts. That's about it, and we'll cobble them
Yeah,
together from there. This
yeah, it was. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, please go ahead.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird time. The shorts, some of them were experimental, some worked, some didn't. But when they were packaged together well, there were some underrated films during that era. I actually do have a fondness for both Melody Time and especially Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I still really like Ichabod and Mr. Toad to this very day.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Bing Crosby was the narrator of that, right?
He was the narrator of the Sleepy Hollow segment, the Ichabod, and then Basil Rathbone did Mr. Toad.
Interesting. But I have one more modern movie I'd like to talk about, and this review is currently up on the channel. Transformers Rise of the Beasts. And this was one that I was not super looking forward to. I think that the Transformers from 84, Transformers from 2007, Dark of the Moon, and Bumblebee are like the only good Transformers movies, and the rest are just wretched garbage. But thankfully, Rise of the Beast is actually one of the good ones. There's some things that I didn't like about it, and I go into it in the video. It's a bit of it's more spoilery than normal for a spoiler-free review I like to do. So don't watch it if you haven't seen it. Jacob, I don't know if you have seen it or plan on seeing it, but
I I'm not as big of a Transformers fan, so I don't mind it being spoiled. However, one part in the end, it's been spoiled for me already, so I know about the potential crossover they're teasing.
Well, like just like generically thumbs up or down on it.
Kind of in the middle.
Yeah, that's where I am too. I kind of want to see what they do with it because I remember when they were initial plans for it, I was like, I don't know how they're going to square that circle, but as I sit here, I'm like, maybe they've got a plan for it, who
Yeah.
knows? But I'm at least intrigued. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, I when you talk about these two ideas, I don't see how that would work together because both are over the top in nature, but one is more, I guess, kind of grounded in a sense with where it is with the characters compared to the other, which is more sci-fi. But if they got something interesting with it, I'm open to it. That's all I'll say without diving deep into it.
Well, when it comes to this IP that we're talking about, it's not Transformers. They can really only go up from there because the last few movies have been okay at best and total garbage at worst. I mean, talk about like a wretched casting choice in one of them. If you know, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard decent things on Rise of the Beast. I think a lot of people have said it's one of the better Transformers movies. It looked generic to me just from the trailers, but it still looked like it was better than half of the Michael Bay film. So at least it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's true. But I pass it off to all of you. What have you been watching lately? Let us know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, well, let's dive into some Iron Fist discussion. We are slowly but surely and through gritted teeth making our way through this season. This is season one, episode five, called Underleaf Pluck Lotus. I love these titles more than the episodes that they're named after. An insidious new drug hits New York. Danny recruits Colleen for the fight, and Claire discovers that credit cards can have many uses. So, yeah, as the synopsis implies, we get a Claire sighting, tying everything all together. And Ward is a pill popper now, because I guess we just needed that. But,
Yeah.
Jacob, what say you?
Okay, I'll get my negatives out of the way first because this show is definitely flawed in so many ways. When Claire came back for this show, I rolled my eyes. I was like, really? I have nothing against Rosario Dawson. I think the Claire character is fine, but I can only take so much of Claire. I even thought she was shoehorned in Luke Cage half the time, and having her show up again in this show, I'm like, really? We're having her show up again, only for, to me it was cheap exposition because of her past experience with the hand. If you hadn't even watched the other shows, you'd be like, how does she know all this stuff? And so even having her be in the show was just kind of off-putting to me. And you brought up about Ward just getting into pills all of a sudden. That, to me, that just kind of came out of nowhere. It was not set up in any way. And honestly, I have no emotional attachment to the character to where if something bad happens to him, like if he ODs or something like that, I'm not gonna care because he's such a jerk face the whole time. Aside from that, the episode itself was okay. There were, aside from those two elements, some of the main storyline with Danny Rand is starting to get interesting with the clash that, he's running the company, but he's seeing all the red flags that has been going on and has been trying to rat all the bad stuff out. The stuff where he's trying to deal with the drug bust, that action scene I thought was pretty solid. I like the fact that he and Colleen are teaming up, as Colleen is a far more interesting character. So they have her team up with Danny, the Iron Fist. I thought was actually a smart choice. And I think this is the first time in the show where I'm genuinely intrigued over the hand. I didn't care for the hand when it was teased in Daredevil. And so far, I'm like, I don't really understand what the hand is all about. But then we get to see the group at the end of this episode of in the leader, that woman Gal,
Madam
get
Gal,
up
yes.
get upset at that one guy for failing to do his job and just brings the sword down and slices goes through his mouth. Probably one of the most brutal images I've seen in a Marvel Netflix show in quite a while. It was up there with some of the more brutal aspects in Daredevil. I'm like, oh wow, this woman means business. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll get used to the hand after all. We'll see.
yeah, but I also I was thinking about this through the episode. Why are we keeping this person in shadow? It's like it's Madame Gao from Daredevil. There is only one person that this could be. So like is, why are we keeping her like
Oh,
like this
that
is
was the same. That was the same woman on Daredevil.
yeah, from
I I
she
don't think
ran
I don't think I ever put two and two together. I was like, I didn't realize that was the same character. I
she
thought
ran
this
the
was
drugs
different.
for Fisk, and they had the rooftop convo where Fisk could speak
Ah, okay.
Chinese or Japanese.
Wow. I guess that's a failure on the show's part for not having me realize that was the same person.
Yeah, and so I was just sitting there like, we know who this person is. Like, why is she being shrouded?
Yeah, I guess that is a weird choice, but I will say, like I said, it made me kind of intrigued with the whole storyline with the hand, even though I'm still have some questions about that, especially with the Faramir character, because I'm still too lazy to remember the character's name, who strangely was not even in the episode, which was weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but I'm glad they're giving Colleen more things to do. She is by far and away the most likable person in this entire show, as we have talked about several times.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. I liked the I like seeing the two interact together. The two actors actually do have good chemistry with one another. Uh, as far as Finn Jones, he has better chemistry with the Colleen character than with the Joy character, which I'm still kind of confused on her character because her morals are very conflicted, and I'm not sure whether I actually like her as a character or not.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that that Iron Fist is recruiting her for this fight. I did appreciate that. I I didn't hate the Claire sighting as much as you do, and hate is a strong word, I know, but I was like, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to make it all work, I mean, Claire is pretty much the one unifying factor throughout, so it was only inevitable that we did see her. So I didn't dislike it, but at the same time, I do see what you're saying. It's like the only reason she's here is just to put two and two together to make four. And Rosario Dawson is a very good actress. She does deserve better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of Iron Fist season one, episode five? Let me know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. Well, Jacob, it's main event time. It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm going to turn it over to you. I have a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-filled review where I was joined by Matt, Wyatt, and Ryan from Real Spective last Wednesday while we were out. So I will give you the keys. Why don't you go ahead and start us off? What'd you think of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Loved it. Even though I've not seen that many 2023 releases, I can easily say with confidence this is my favorite movie I've seen so far this year. I thought this film was absolutely spectacular. The amount of detail that these animators brought with every frame in this movie, with every single universe that was explored and the different animation styles, I was my jaw dropped for probably half of the movie. It was such an incredible feat of animation between the backgrounds and also the multiple characters that are on display. Each each character having different animation styles along with that, and how it's able to mesh together very seamlessly. I gotta give Sony a good pat on the back because they did such a phenomenal job with that. The action sequences are amazing. There's a chase sequence with so many different spider people in it, which absolutely blew me away. Apparently, that scene took 4 years to animate, I've been told, and if that's the case, then their patience definitely paid off because that was a spectacular sequence. I still love the fact that even though this movie is definitely more experimental, it's a lot more ambitious than the first. It's juggling a lot more characters and it's diving deeper into the multiverse. It's still a Miles Morales story at heart. He is still the main character. We follow him and his day to day journey, his struggle to balance between his Miles Morales character and him being Spider Man, kind of similar to Spider Man 2 in a lot of ways, which I respect. I like that Gwen Stacy has more of a character in this movie. It expands her backstory, which was just briefly alluded to in the first film. There was some really compelling layers with her character that I really liked. The deepening of her and Miles' relationship I thought was really good. I thought the soundtrack, much like in the first movie, I thought was fantastic. The score was actually pretty intense at times. I enjoyed I enjoyed all the, like I said, the incredible animation styles and even the Spot character, which I was unsure about when I first saw the character. I'm like, this character is not working with me. The jokes aren't landing. It seems like a pathetic character. But then they fleshed out the Spot character, and I'm like, oh man, this character is going to be a sinister threat, and I am here for it, especially in the way they visualize this character. I thought the film had a great build up, despite its extended runtime, and which I think was 2 hours 20 minutes, the longest running animated film that's made here in the U.S. The pacing still flew by for me. It built up to a really good cliffhanger, which I've seen some were frustrated by it. It didn't frustrate me because I knew they announced this as a part one at first, and I thought it ended in a way that where I was excited for the next film, and the new film Beyond the Spider Verse cannot come soon enough. I still think Into the Spider Verse I still prefer because of its simplicity, but Across the Spider Verse is still a fantastic sequel, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this movie. I've done a spoiler-free and a filled review, and I feel like I could talk about it for days. I mean, I feel like we can spoil it here, right, Jacob? I mean,
Yeah, definitely. You've already done a spoiler video. Let's talk spoilers all the way. So if you haven't watched it, then wait till
watch it.
you've seen the film and come back.
Watch it. That's plain and simple. But yeah, kind of kind of going in a loose chronological order. Yeah, the Spot when I first saw him, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be quick, but no. I mean, the Spot just basically went from comedy fodder to like Sauron. like like the design when he gets to like his final form near the end of the movie with the scribbles and how he's designed, it kind of looked like when you see like the figure in the eye of Sauron. I know I'm like, it's a weird comparison, but that's what my mind drifted towards.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting comparison, which I didn't think about when watching the film. But it's crazy how the character started out as kind of like a joke that you can't take seriously to where he becomes this sinister threat that really wants to take on Miles Morales because of the weird history between the two characters. Like they set up early in the film that this was the character who was a background character in the first movie that Miles hit on the head with a bagel during a chase scene. And he's now Miles Morales' biggest arch nemesis, which is so weird, but I'm kind of digging into it.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you this, Jacob. I know this character is voiced by Jason Schwartzman. Did you think for a second that he was voiced by Ryan Reynolds, or was that just me?
No, I didn't. I knew it was Jason Schwartzman going in because I was actually looking at the poster before going in to see the film. I was waiting on a friend to show up when we saw the film, and I was looking at the poster and I saw Jason Schwartzman's name on. I'm like, wonder who he's voicing. It's weird that one of Wes Anderson's biggest pals is in a Spider-Man movie, and I recognize his voice. I'm like, oh, it's this guy, the jokey villain. But it actually I thought the voice was off at first, but then after a while, I'm like, oh, I'm really intrigued by this character.
This is what happens when Max Fisher reaches his final form, ladies and gentlemen. But
I
going to be
would
very
just need Bill Murray to show up, and it'd be a heated rivalry.
yeah, him and one of the Wilsons and the triad of Wes Anderson regulars will be complete. But yeah, Jason Schwartzman did go over and beyond in this one. He did a really good job. Uh, One of the biggest surprises was how much they gave Gwen Stacy. I thought that she was very good. I mean, it's Haley Steinfeld, so of course the acting's going to be on point. But the first like 20-ish minutes of the movie is dedicated solely to her. And at first I was like, all right, it's fine and all, but where's Miles? But I was sucked in, and when she goes through the portal and joins up with the spider army, I'm going to call them until told otherwise, and then hits Columbia Pictures Presents. I'm like, this is like the first 20-ish minutes of the movie, and it's just flown by. That's really a testament to this movie and how efficient it is to take one of the
Yeah.
side characters from the first movie and make me care so much about her.
Well, I think with all the different iterations, there's always similarities where a big tragedy unfolds, which really tests the stability of the character. And in Gwen's case, she accidentally killed her best friend, who turned into a giant lizard, and then she had a clash with her dad over that. There's some really compelling storytelling in there that I was really fascinated with. I didn't know much about this version of Gwen Stacy, especially with the spider abilities, but I thought it was really compelling storytelling. And Gwen, to me, as this movie had a cliffhanger, Gwen was the only one that had like a full fledged arc, because by the end, after the relationship with Miles got a little bit rocky because of some revelations, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. She does go back to her home world, and she does reconcile with her dad. And aside from that arc, the rest of the movie is just a cliffhanger. But it's cool that we got to learn more about Gwen Stacy, where she was at in her home world, uh, getting some things straightened out in her home world, and is now dedicated to fixing the situation that she was originally a part of.
It broke my heart when like her dad ran started to read off the Miranda rights to her. I'm like, that's your daughter. Like, think about this for a minute.
And
But
this is right after she unmasked and revealed who she was, too. And I was like, really? You think a normal situation would be like, oh, that changes things. Let's have a nice talk first, and then I'll figure out what's going on. And he's like, no,
like he eventually comes
my
around.
daughter's a vigilante. I don't want no part of this crap.
Like he eventually comes around and they're fine, which I did appreciate. But when it first happened, I was like, dude, time and place. There's a literal time and place for this, and this ain't the time and this ain't the place. But it's like the only thing that he's ever known. So what can he do to process it other than what he knows? So it's very complex, that whole scene. And the animation is just brilliant. I've seen some people be like it was weird, but I love the animation of Spider-Gwen. It's very watercolor, very like you left a watercolor painting in the rain. I kind of love that.
Yeah, there's just so many shots in this whole movie in general that I was just so impressed with, in the different styles. Like, I like how Miles' world kind of looks more like our world if it was animated, but then Miles's or Gwen's world has the watercolors like you were talking about, but then the Hindu, like the New York Hindu mix world with the
Mountbatten.
yeah, with the Hindu Spider-Man looked completely different than that, and it still looked amazing.
Yeah, I love the little scene where he goes on the rant about how chai tea is just tea, but people call it like chai tea. Like I
Yeah.
love that. And I was talking about it with some coworkers of mine, and this one girl whose name is Autumn, she is like, yeah, it's the same thing with naan bread. We call it naan bread, but naan in Indian is literally just called bread, so we're calling it just bread. I'm like, I did not know this.
Yeah. but yeah, there's and then even like in the opening sequence where they have the vulture who looks almost like some of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. And I was like, this is a cool way of designing the character. And you have the other Spider Woman who comes out on a motorcycle and just starts driving laps around this creature and even riding the motorcycle on top of it. I was like, wow, there's some cool action in this movie.
Yeah, I like how Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, his world is very more sheen, very pristine, more like. I like that. I like that touch. I like how when we see the spectacular Spider-Man, Ben Riley, he's very like big muscles, very inner monologue-y. That was very nice lampooning slash tribute of like the Frank Miller late 90s style of comic. I really liked that. I
There was
love
the
how
oh,
much
good.
effort, the amount of effort that Sony put into this is just, I struggle to think that there's going to be an animated movie this year that's going to top the animation that Across the Spider-Verse does, because I've seen trailers for stuff like Elemental, and the animation that looks good. It's Pixar, so of course, but I mean that movie just kind of looks meh to me. And then you got Ruby Gillman, again, nice animation, but still kind of eh. Then you got Trolls, the new Trolls movie, and just that looks kind of there. It feels like Across the Spider-Verse is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that you have all these animation styles and they even have a Lego world at one point, which was kind of
I
crazy.
I popped so hard for that when I saw it. I was like, "Are we getting Lego Spider-Man? Lord and Miller, I'm gonna need a Lego Spider-Man movie, please. There's so much material
Yes,
you can do with that.
I mean we have a Lego Batman movie already, so
Might
that's
as well
so
do
it's
Lego
very
Spider-Man."
possible. Uh, but yeah, I think as far as what you said about other animated movies that could pot, the only other one I can think of that might. It's weird saying this because I'm not as big a fan of this IP as Spider Man, but as far as the quality of animation, the only one that might be able to match Spider Verse is the upcoming Ninja Turtles movie. Because that Ninja Turtles movie is animated in a similar style as the Spider Verse films. And even though I'm not as big on the Ninja Turtles, the footage I've seen for this new movie actually looks really cool. And it might actually make me appreciate the Ninja Turtles more.
Yeah, jury's still out. I've never really been a Ninja Turtles guy. I've never really understood the appeal. I understand it has fans, and I'm not dunking on what they like. Please understand that. It's never really been for me. I'm the guy who's like, wait, turtles are like small animals. It's like, how is this even possible? But like, and maybe this is coming from the fact that the only real Ninja Turtles exposure I've ever had was the two Michael Bay produced ones, which were both terrible. So there that is. The only thing I liked about the last one, Out of the Shadows, was that pro wrestler Sheamus was either Bebop or Rocksteady. He was the Rhino. That's the one. But that was nice to see him getting that work there. But yeah, like I said, Spider Verse is just like doing laps around everything else, both in animation and in story. And I think good place as any to talk about the ending, because we leave off in a very complicated place. Spider Gwen is in Miles's universe. Miles is in a universe where Spider-Man never existed, and he turns into the Prowler in that universe, which I was like, all right, I have a feeling he's going to be the Prowler. I don't want to say I called it, but I had a feeling that's where they were going, and I was right. I just had a My spidey sense was tingling on that.
Yeah,
Miguel O'Hara is also in seemingly behind Spider Gwen and trying to catch her. So we're left off in a very complicated place. And I did enjoy the ending quite a bit. I felt like it was very much a Spider Gwen is rallying the troops, and beyond the Spider Verse is just going to be a big rescue mission where all the Spider people are just going to go. And I just love that. I love the idea of that.
yeah. There's a lot to unpack in what we just and what I will watch, and I've been processing it the past few days. First off, the whole notion that the Miles in the main universe was not supposed to be Spider-Man and it was just a freak occurrence, I thought was very interesting. And the fact that other Spider people, including Gwen, knew that was actually just a shock to me. I'd seen people say Gwen had done Miles dirty with that reveal, but when else was she going to reveal that? Because that's such a crushing blow that you weren't supposed to be Spider Man, but some chance encounter caused that to happen. I
Yeah,
just thought that I just thought that was very interesting. Uh, what you talked about the twist with Miles being in the wrong universe. I for some reason I felt kind of stupid for not picking up on that because I was enjoying his little heart to heart chat with his mom and then confessing that he's Spider Man. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a good moment. Then she's like, "Who's Spider Man?" I'm like, "What?" I was like so confused. What was going on? Did the spot mess you up, or on the way back? What happened? And then I'm like, "Oh, wrong universe." Ah, gotcha. But I thought the reveal was done very well. The and seeing that universe and seeing how messed up and apocalyptic it is because there's no Spider-Man and that his dad is the one killed in that universe instead of his uncle. His uncle's still around, and Miles being the Prowler. You said that was predictable. I kind of called it when they were about to reveal it in that scene. I'm like, Miles is the Prowler, isn't he? And then they had that reveal. I'm like, oh, crap, that's crazy. I kind of want to see a Miles versus Miles fight in the next movie. I think that would be a really neat thing to see. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, just the complex story, particularly when we get to the Miguel character. Even though I feel like he's like a rogue, kind of like extremist Spider-Man, and he wants everything in check. I was really on the fence about where everyone was coming from. Like I obviously I see where Miles was coming from because he's wanting to try to prevent his father from getting killed. But then you got Miguel saying, "Oh no, that's going to violate the order of things that makes you Spider-Man." It's kind of dealing into how to keep the multiverse in check, and I'm like, who do you root for in a situation like that? And it's a very fascinating study that I'm excited to see. Hopefully, get resolved in the next movie.
yeah, it is like I said, it speaks to the complexity of a movie like this to where we're arguing this much about Spider-Man 2099. Is like it really does speak to how it's like, is he like do we side with him? Because it's like there's logic in what he says, but at the same time, he's coming from a place of he wants perfection at any cost and is like it's not practical. So it's like an underlying message of we all wish that we could be in a universe where we had everything we wanted, but we're in this universe for a reason. It's very deep like that.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about the storytelling. It's not trying to dumb down or pander anything to younger kids. It's trusting its audience to tell the story, and it makes a lot of bold choices along the way, which I appreciate about it.
Yeah, 100%. But I think we can leave it off there unless we're missing anything. I know
Um,
there's so much we could touch on, but I think we
I'm trying
covered.
to think because some of the Easter eggs, there were some intriguing Easter eggs that I caught, like
Yeah.
the Chin lady that was in the two Venom movies had a cameo, which was kind of funny.
Hmm.
And then did you catch Donald Glover
Yeah,
in
as the
live action as the Prowler?
yeah,
That was
Prowler, that was a nice
that
call
was a cool touch.
to the MCU. And it actually, that is a good point I wanted to bring up. What did you think of seeing in the background, like say Andrew Garfield and that the Uncle Ben moments? Like, what did you think of that? Did you like that?
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat touch showing all these universes are out there.
Yeah, but we've got it's this Beyond the Spider-Verse we're getting March 29th of next year. And when I was talking to Ryan from Respective on the live stream, he was sort of predicting that the movie's probably going to get pushed back because I read a report somewhere that Haley Steinfeld has not recorded a single line of dialogue for Beyond the Spider-Verse. And it is, as of this recording, Monday, June 12th, 2023. Beyond the Spider-Verse, according to our current calendar, releases March of next year. So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So 9 months. So they got 9 months to make this work. And again, they might have this somewhat complete by now. We don't know. Or they're still at square one. Again, we don't know. But it's going to be interesting because they've got a lot of stuff to wrap up for a third film, and it's going to be interesting to see if they stick the landing. I trust in the fact that they will, but at the same time, it's like you're kind of pushing it.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest worries is the fact that they decided to do a two-part story, and sometimes if your part two delivers, it hurts your first part. I know a lot of people loved it when it came out, but for many people, even though I enjoyed chapter two for what it was, regardless of its flaws, it did not stick the landing for a lot of people, and that kind of hurt both movies as a result of it. So you got to have a story that does a good job of wrapping up what was set up, and especially since you're doing a trilogy, it needs to pay off so you can rank this as a fantastic trilogy, and maybe could be the best animated trilogy if the third one really pays off.
Yeah, but the thing with the It movies, they were going off of the Stephen King book, and so that ending was in the book. So the Andy Machete pretty much had to, with creative licenses, I'm sure, go off of the ending of the book. So he was somewhat boxed in on that. With where we left off with Across the Spider-Verse, we might have a feeling we might know where this is headed, but at the same time, we don't know what's going to happen, which is both a blessing and a curse. We're basically living, second time I've mentioned this, but we're basically living in Schrodinger's comic book movie, where it's going to stick the landing and it's not. And the only way we'll find out is when we see it in March of 2024.
Yeah, but either way, I'm excited to see it. I'm definitely going to be there opening weekend if I'm able to, and hopefully it'll be one of the highlight movies of that year because Into the Spider Verse was my favorite movie of 2018, and as of now, this is my favorite movie of 2023. Will Beyond the Spider Verse uh, be my favorite movie of next year? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but I feel like now was a good place to leave it off, and I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of Across the Spider-Verse? I know some of you watching have at least seen it. Let us know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. And Jacob, I had a great time gushing over this movie with you and theorizing. Feel like when we get to the March 2024 preview, this will be a full-on 5 stars when we get.
Easily, easily.
Yeah, I want to see it right now, but good things come to those who wait. But thank you so much, Jacob. It is a privilege to do this with you every single week. And outside of discussing DreamWorks, is there anything else coming to the channel?
Well, I still got two uploads I still need to do from the last what I watched live stream that I did a month ago. So I will upload those this week, which I still got to do upload Luke Cage season one as a review, and also Lyle Crocodile, which was surprisingly a solid movie. And then I'll do my what I've watched live stream where I'll do a live watch or live discussion reviews of movies that I've watched in the past few weeks. That's when I'll do Mission Impossible 3 and Ghost Protocol and incorporate the collabs in there on the stream. I'll talk about Into the Spider Verse on that live stream and Across the Spider Verse, along with other movies that I've watched in the past few weeks. I need to catch up on some celebrating Disney's and I think it's going to be another good stream. I can't wait to get the grind back in on the channel once again, especially as the school quarter is about to come to a close. I can do a little bit more during the summer break, and I'm excited to see where it leads. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already.
Of course, as always, Jacob's links will be in the description. Go give him a follow there. As for this channel, I will be kicking on my road to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with my review for Temple of Doom. First time I've watched that movie in a while, and oh boy, it is a big old mixed bag, but I'll be saving that for that. That'll be this coming Thursday. This coming Friday, I'll be continuing my road to Asteroid City by covering Wes Anderson's second stop-motion animated film, Isle of Dogs. I remember loving it when I first saw it, and this will be my first rewatch of it in quite some time. So it's going to be interesting to see what I think of it. And then I will be reviewing at least one new release. I'm thinking it's going to be The Flash. I mean, it's going to be the biggest movie next week, so of course. And then I'm going to be having Matt Wyatt back on the channel to talk some spoilers. It's going to be a ton of fun. But as for this channel and this video, if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe, click the bell to allow notifications so when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. For Jacob Martin, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you in the next one. Y'all take care.